we want to promote sustainable development while empowering our communities. And our mission is serving society through science, and science is embedded in everything we do. So we are trying to look at how we can use it effectively for the good of people.
Today we have with us Ms. Alka Talwar, Chief CSR and Sustainability Officer at Tata Chemicals Limited. Ms. Talwar oversees all sustainability initiatives and disclosures for the company, promoting responsible manufacturing across geographies and the value chain. She also leads the diversity and inclusion and social development programs that include projects on natural resource management, environment conservation, rural energy, sustainable livelihoods, and empowerment. Ms. Talwar has been associated with Tata Chemicals for more than 30 years and has worked in various functions. An architect by education and a certified achievement motivation trainer, she is also an honorable trustee and secretary of Tata Chemical Society for Rural Development and has worked extensively on both environment and social causes. Ms. Talwar, lovely to have you with us today.
Thank you for inviting me, Yamini. It's lovely to be here as well.
It's our pleasure, ma'am. Before we begin, ma'am, I think it would be great to understand a little bit about your background, how you got interested in this area of sustainability.
I think I've always been very close to nature. So trekking and being out in the nature has been my passion, and I think that was the natural progression. So while I was working with Tata Chemicals on design and research and development department, but because I would volunteer for a lot of these programs and take children out on eco walks, we were in Meetapur, and Meetapur has these lovely coral reefs and
Right.
very, very rich biodiversity. So we would sort of volunteer, take children out and talk about and study. And I think Tata Chemicals were looking at people who had passion and commitment towards sustainability. So it was a natural fit. And here I am handling this portfolio for quite some time and hopefully doing a good job as well.
Right. That's wonderful to hear, ma'am. Now, just talking a little bit about the CSR that you do at Tata Chemicals, can you tell us what the vision behind it is and what are some priority areas that you work in?
So for our CSR, we have a two-pronged approach. We look at two things. One is that we look at livelihoods that are sustainable, and then we look at how do you ensure that the environment is taken care of. So these are the two main pillars.
Right.
And underlying all of this is our whole effort towards empowerment and sustainable development. So we say that we want to promote sustainable development while empowering our communities, and that's really important. And the thing that we look at as enablers are our education and healthcare, because we think that this actually helps us have better ecology and better livelihoods for people. So that's the way our framework is being made, and that's how our programs run.
Right. I think that's a very sort of intertwined and holistic approach to
Yes.
sustainability and conservation. Right.
Yeah.
Now I'm zooming into one of your initiatives that you run, which is the Science for Good initiative. Can you tell us a little bit about how you bring your expertise in science to the forefront, especially at a time like the COVID-19 crisis that we are going through right now?
Like I mentioned, our mission is serving society through science, and science is embedded in everything we do. So we are trying to look at how we can use it effectively for the good of people. I can give you an example. During COVID, we quickly moved our manufacturing from what we were doing, that is soda ash and soda bicarb and cement, to making of hypochlorite. So all our production stopped except, we were making hypochlorite and then, giving it to, say, Bombay and various villages and in Gujarat as well. Similarly, in our Rallies plant, we looked at, we can quickly make sanitizers, and we have the alcohol with us, and, it's part of the process we are. So we quickly shifted to making of sanitizers and stuff. We have other efforts like we run a program which is called Holistic Nutrition Program. And in the program, we were looking at what are the local foods available and how can we sort of add value to local community and their food. And so we used our innovation center to do a test in terms of finding out which are foods that are easily available, which can add to the thali of the local communities and the tribals, and sort of promote that. And the simple things of how do you process food. You take wheat or rice and you just sort of wet it a little so that the sprouting starts and that releases the nutrients. So using that understanding and then taking it to the community. Of course, all the work that we do on biodiversity and conservation is very linked to science and ecology. So I think it's a holistic approach. We look at our products, we look at processes, we look at how we can help the communities, and that's the way we kind of move ahead.
Right. Wonderful. Yeah, I'm just talking about your work with communities, because when we're working with communities, I think a very important part of that becomes leadership and how the community will, sort of take that forward. And considering that you've been working on creating these sustainable livelihoods across, farming, sanitation, education, how do you then hand over the reins to the community and sort of encourage this leadership for them to take it forward?
So, like I mentioned, our approach is empowering communities and sustainable development. So when we start designing the program, we look at what are the elements that can be added, which will add sustainability to the program itself. And very often it is having a community-based organization. It could be the water management committee or a watershed committee or the self-help group or a farmer producer organization, which can take forward whatever intervention we've done. It's a very, very important part of how we design our programs. In all our watershed programs, in all our drinking water programs, we have a water management committee, and the communities involved in decision making in the design of the programs and what will work for them and what won't. And this sort of an integrated participatory approach is how we ensure that it's sustainable. The communities will take on what has been designed, because they have also sort of contributed to the design of the program and the implementation as well. Many of our programs, they also put in their funds and their shramdan or whatever they can. That again makes a whole premise of ownership. They own the program, and it's much more sustainable.
Right, absolutely. And in the areas, ma'am, that you mentioned, women play a greater role when it comes to water, sanitation, farming. Can you tell us a little bit about how you've seen women sort of be the torch bearers for change in the different geographies that you work across?
So we have a huge program on self-help groups and women empowerment, and we used to run a program which was called Tejaswini, which actually looked at what are the things a woman needs to know, and now the women sort of run it themselves. Right. It talks about their personal health, it talks about their rights, and anything else that they need to know, legal aid or so on and so forth. The self-help group is an important part of the work we do. They come together, they talk about social issues and concerns, and then they start actively participating in their own development. Of course, we have programs like Okai Center for Empowerment, which has in its whole structure, women leading it and women being a part of the delivery, women artisans, which are a huge part of the overall program and the organization as well. And it's about their livelihood. They're taking charge of everything, them moving forward. And it's, like I mentioned, it's a very, very important part for us. And exactly what you mentioned, they take ownership, and you can see the change in the village itself. In Okai beneficiaries, what I've seen is that a lot of these women, they talk about getting their girl child educated, contributing to the household income, building a house. Of course, buying things for themselves. We also encourage them to, look after themselves and buy things for themselves as well. So all of it together, I think, is working very well. Besides women, we also look at other disadvantaged communities and we try and focus on that as well.
I think it's very important to definitely have an emphasis on women because they are catalysts for change in the communities that they work with.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Change quickly trickles
And
down.
they take total action. They are so passionate about it. Uh, Once they're on board, you can see the passion and the way they have led. I have had women from self-help groups sit in the same platform as our MD and have a panel discussion.
Wow.
To have that confidence and be out in the open is amazing. And it's been very energizing and fulfilling for me as well. Just seeing these women do all the different kinds of things.
That's really lovely to hear. So just wanted to know, looking back at what has already happened and the impact that you've created, going forward, what is a particular area or agenda that you would like to work towards? And has that sort of been rerouted in light of the current pandemic?
The learning has been, completely rooted on the Sustainable Development Goal and sustainability of our programs.
Right.
So we've looked at different ways to ensure that what we do continues to remain sustainable. And in this endeavor, there are certain things that we are focusing on. Of course, I've talked about community-based organization like a farmer producer organization and self-help groups. The other aspect is to work in a business model like a social business, and that's really important for us because we think that I can do an intervention and come out, and will people continue to benefit out of it? Unless it's in a method where more input is not available from us, but it runs on a self-sustaining mode. So that self-sustaining mode is very, very critical. And all our focus is that if I do an intervention in agriculture, then I ensure that there are entrepreneurs who are made to provide the services. And if the farmers think that these services are critical and important, then they will pay for it. We've created entrepreneurs who provide this services. And, we've seen, we've ourselves done about 100 farmers, but now the whole area is covered because people can see the benefit and take it forward. Similarly, we've set up OKAI, which is OKAI Center for Empowerment. And during the pandemic, we actually converted it into a marketplace, helping thousands of artisans. Artisans would go to, say, a mela and sell their product, and you'd have Kalagoda festival or and so on and so forth. But because we were already selling online, we started onboarding, teaching them how to sell online, doing training in terms of photography and the storyline that they should put up. And I'm really happy to say that almost 27,000 artisans are now part of the OKAI marketplace. We are looking at 50,000 at least this year. We call it 1 lakh happy hands. That's 2 hands, 1,000. So we want 1 lakh happy hands to be able to reach out and sell their products. Similarly, we've set up a Encourage Social Enterprise Foundation, which is again looking at tribal products, taking it to market, teaching them, how to make quality product, what is the processing methods. So it's moving from doing helping the community do participatory development to getting them to be a part of the mainstream and and being able to continue their development journey even with us or without us, either way. So I think that's the most critical thing for us, and that's the way we've been progressing as well.
I think it's very important, man, that you highlighted that because leaving this self-sustaining ecosystem running is really important, so you can focus on the next group or maybe the next challenge.
Absolutely. It has larger impact. You're able to reach out more and benefit many more people. I think that is really, really critical. And I personally feel that is the way all social development programs should run.
Absolutely. With that, ma'am, we are actually at the end of our interview today. Thank you so much for taking time out and chatting with us. It was lovely to hear about all the great work that you are doing. And, I wish you all the best in your endeavor of the 1 lakh happy hands. And we definitely look forward to witnessing it.
Right. Thank you so much, Yamini. It was a pleasure talking to you.